back to Marnie's Everyday Adventures. Today I'm going to be sharing my experience bringing Tot to Mumbai from Portland. That was the hardest part about moving. Not packing, not like leaving friends and family. Like, it was making sure he was traveling in the best way possible without spending like $50,000. Here's my story. First, I knew I would be leaving in February of 2024. So I started doing my research like in August or so. Yeah, probably August. I quickly realized that I didn't want to have to figure it all out by myself. I didn't want to have to deal with the documentation from the United States and getting him cleared to fly to India, and then Indian documentation to get him cleared to be released here. So I contacted pet transport companies, and I'm so glad I did. If I had to send Tot back or anywhere, I would do it again. I would contact a pet transport company. So I'll link below the pet transport companies I used. But that is like my biggest recommendation. Unless I flew him many times around the world, I wouldn't feel comfortable figuring this stuff out by myself. So I really relied on the transport companies to help me with everything. I mean, I was like an idiot doing this, like really an idiot. I couldn't even figure out what size crate to get for him. Like, it was crazy, the things I had to ask them for. So in September, I contacted a few pet transport companies, and I selected one. They were all really knowledgeable. I mean, that was the great thing, is that everybody was like, oh, we've sent dogs to India all the time, or cats or whatever. This is how it works. They fly through these hubs. Like, it was really comforting to talk to these people, because they sounded like they knew what they were doing. So I was like, okay, done. It's gonna cost a lot of money, but it's worth it. It's worth it. I know he'll be taken care of. They'll follow him along the way. I'm not gonna be standing in, Mumbai while he's in Amsterdam or Turkey or somewhere else, and I can't get to him. So I knew the best way would be to work with the pet transport company. So in September, I selected a pet transport company, the Pet Porters, and I paid a deposit. I really didn't have to do anything for the next few months because there isn't anything really to do. I made sure that Tot was fine and everything like that. I did learn that there was no way, so Tot's not a big dog, but he is about 25 pounds, and you can't carry him with you. Not that I would want to do that. 2 10-hour flights is not something I'm going to take a dog on with me. But just if you're curious, the max weight capacities are, I think it's 11 kilograms, including the crate. So that includes the dog's weight and the crate. Tot's weight was more than the allowed weight that you could take on a plane anyway, so my only choice really was to fly him manifested cargo. So that's what I elected to do, aside from flying private or something, which I wasn't going to spend that much money to do that. I felt like it was safe and reliable, and the pet transport companies were really like comforting in that he would be okay. So horses get flown around, like it's amazing how they do all of this stuff. So I paid a deposit in September for the pet transport company, and then I didn't really do anything. When I selected the pet transport company, I also provided them with Tot's pet information. And then in, I think, December, I had already booked my flight. So I knew I would be flying February 2nd, 2024. So I let them know, like, I have my flight booked. I want Tot to fly. I was hoping he would fly a few days before me so we would get here at the same time, because I knew it would take him about a day longer than me to fly over here. So I was hoping he would fly out earlier. I did know that he wouldn't be able to fly from Portland, and he would have to go out of Seattle. So because of that, I booked my own flight out of Seattle. So Seattle to Mumbai, going through Amsterdam, and then Tot was gonna go a different way, but I knew he had to fly out of Seattle. So I was hoping the dates would coordinate and whatever. By the end of December, the pet transport company found a flight out of Seattle going through, I think it was on Turkish Airways, going through Istanbul. So that's the flight we plan to put him on. We started working on visa issues and stuff because I was coming over on a tourist visa, which is harder to bring your pets along with you. By doing that, you have to provide additional documentation to India, all these things, which I did not have. I had my partner A contact a pet transport company in Mumbai to help us with the paperwork that India would require to get Tot in. And we ended up needing a DGFT license to have and provide a whole bunch of other information about me to bring Tot in. So we ended up hiring both an Indian pet transport company and a US pet transport company to help us get Tot here as easily as possible, which again was totally worth it. I don't know how we would have been able to figure all of this out on our own. It just would have been way too much work. And as I've said before, I don't like working. So we were happy to have people who knew what was going on help us out. So the Furry Flyers were our pet transport company here in Mumbai. They helped us get all the documentation we needed to get Tot in, which included this extra license that we had to get applied to the government for. So we applied for that in January, and it was going to take he said it might take a month or longer maybe to get that. So we were really like, what are we going to do about Tot? Is he going to be able to fly? Like, how soon do I need to get extra care for him? You know, who knows? Tot wants to be a part of this. So we submitted everything for the license and we just were waiting to hear. We were kind of on pause. And I should talk about the crate situation because the crate, that was probably the hardest thing for me to figure out because Tot is a snub-nosed breed. So because he is part pug, which is the flat-faced dogs, it's more dangerous for them to fly. Even though he actually has a nose, as you can see here. They were still like, his crate was required to be a size bigger than a normal crate for a dog his size. So I really didn't know what size crate to get for him. And that was like kind of a nightmare to figure out. So I ended up having to take a picture of Tot. I did all these measurements of his little body because I don't know where his knee is. I don't know body parts on dogs. And I sent it to the pet transport people, to the pet porters, and I was like, just tell me what size crate to buy. They took a look at the picture and the measurements and they told me what size crate to buy, which was great. It's a huge crate. I mean, Tot had plenty of room. The extra license ended up only taking a couple of weeks to get. So I got that license in January before I left. So once we got the license, we could book Tot on a flight. And so the pet transport company booked him on a flight to leave on February 7th, which was just like 5 days after me. But they also, what they did, which was great, is they made arrangements for him to stay at a dog resort and spa that was in Olympia, Washington, on the way to the Seattle airport. So I was still flying out on February 2nd. Tot was flying out on February 7th. And we had all the arrangements made. I went to the vet, make sure his vaccinations were all correct and proper. I left for my flight on February 2nd with Tot from Portland. On my way to Seattle, I dropped Tot off at the pet resort and spa. I think it's called Friendly Grove Pet Resort and Spa. So I dropped Tot off there, which was like such a beautiful place. I was so happy. Like, it was such a relief to send him there, and they knew everything that was going on. They make regular trips to the airport with dogs for them to fly, and so they know exactly what's going on. I just felt so comfortable leaving him there because they could take care of everything. And I wasn't having the dreaded leave your dog at the airport cargo hold in its crate scenario happening. This was I was away from that, so I didn't cry so much. So after I dropped Tot off at the pet resort and spa, I went onto the airport, got on my flight, started making my way to Mumbai. At the pet resort, the vet had to submit some sort of paperwork to the USDA to get an endorsement so that Tot was cleared to fly. Well, that USDA endorsement took longer to process, of course. It's the government, that's what happens. So I made it here on the 4th, and Tot was still at the pet resort, but they had to postpone his trip because it took longer for his USDA endorsement to come through. So I just paid a little bit more money for him to stay longer at the pet resort. He was doing fine. The pet resort was great. They sent me pictures every day of how cute he is and playing outside and how he's doing. I mean, it was really so nice that they just kept me updated on everything that was going on, ensuring that he was okay. And it was awesome. It was the best. So eventually he was cleared to fly. He got his USDA endorsement. So we ended up being booked on February 12th. So only about 5 days later. On February 12th, they took him to the airport. They sent me pictures of his like last walk before, and he was like out by a lake or a river or something. Like, it was really nice. It was really nice. He had like a little adventure outside time. And then he went on his flight. And I could track him all along the way as he made his way to Mumbai, which took him about 48 hours to get here. And he's rolling around on the couch now. Great. We had to meet him early in the morning, that next morning after he came in. And he flew on a cargo plane. The great thing was that our pet transport company in Mumbai sent an agent to cargo with us to help us get through that whole process. It was all through my name, so I was the only one allowed back to go get Tot in cargo. So it was in this big like warehouse, and the agent took me back there. It's cargo, so it's, you know, there's all sorts of things back there. I saw a coffin come out. Like, I mean, everything gets flown around the world, so there were a lot of things there. It's my understanding that Tot was the only dog on his flight, but I think there was a horse on there with him as well. I don't know. Tot hasn't told me the details of that. But I waited back there probably an hour for Tot to come out, and they wheeled him out on this like a pallet mover thing. So he comes out, and I'm seeing him like from the back of the warehouse being wheeled up, and I'm like starting to cry. I mean, I'm the only person, like regular person there, not a worker. These people are all staring at me like, oh my God, she's breaking down. I am like almost crying, trying not to cry, which makes it worse, I think. And, but Tot is brought out. Once he realizes it's me, he is like screaming. He does this high pitched like screaming thing, which is not okay, but he like couldn't contain himself. So I knew I couldn't let him out of the crate because God knows where he would go, but I was trying to like pet him through the crate and put my fingers in there so he could like smell me and lick me and whatever. I had to wait a little bit longer for like paperwork to go through or whatever happens. And then we were able to come home. And we had hired a taxi, so the taxi was waiting for us. And once we got outside of the like cargo area, warehouse, that whole building area, I let him get out, and he walked around, was smelling everything. He didn't even know what was going on. And then we got in the taxi, we came home, and Tot was fine. Like, he was exhausted, obviously. He'd lost some weight. He'd lost about 2 pounds in the time that I'd seen him. So he was like looking skinny, but he was doing well. And then probably about 5 days later, we had an appointment with, I don't know who it is, the government in India cleared him to be here. He was evaluated. They gave us like this document that has like a seal on it saying that Tot's okay to be here. He's from the US. His vaccinations were approved and checked out and everything like that. So that was like our one follow-up thing. And now he is good. On his like visa, he is good to be here through 2025. So we're fine for a while on that. And that's just because I'm here on a tourist visa. If you came here like on a work visa or a company spouse visa, all of those requirements are different. So I think it's harder on a tourist visa.
And I guess I should say that there wasn't any quarantine period or anything like that once we did pick him up. So we were able to take him home, and then the only requirement was that we went and had that evaluation the following week, just to get his final paperwork signed and make him cleared to stay in India.
So I highly recommend contacting pet transport company. First of all, they will tell you exactly how it happens, even if you don't hire them. Like, the pet transport company gave me the whole like spiel on this is what happens. He'll get picked up, he'll go here, he'll be checked out, everything will be okay for him. So that was really like comforting to know, like, okay, this is how he would get from point A to point B. Also, all over his crate when I got him, there were all these kind of like a log where they detailed like when he last ate, when he last drank, give him water as soon as he lands, and he has little cups in his crate where they could put the food and water in from the outside so they weren't opening the door. I had his like dog bed that he always slept on in Portland. I had that in there with him. So I tried to make it as comfortable as possible. Okay, I think the documents part of it is the most difficult part, to know that you are actually going to get cleared. Having agents working in the States to get him on the plane was great. Having agents working over here in India to get him off the plane, get him out of the warehouse, that was awesome. I'm sure I could have done it myself, but I probably would have just been crying and they would have, not known what to do. So it was really helpful. It was really expensive. I think in total, both with India and the US, I think it cost us about $6,000, maybe $6,500 US dollars. But I would do it again. And I know there's horror stories out there where things happen and pets don't survive. And that was the risk I was willing to take. Like, I just prepared myself for the worst. And then everything was fine. He was fine. I knew I couldn't leave him in Portland forever. I knew he needed to come with me. Thankfully it worked out. So feel free to comment or message or comment, like whether, I know some people have contacted me on Instagram or other ways. If you have questions about it, I know this probably wasn't that helpful, but it's just my story about how I approached it. Basically, I just hired people to help me through it, which was the number one thing for me to do. And it amazes me that Todd flew halfway around the world to be here, and he's fine. He adjusted probably way better than I did in the whole move thing. Best of luck in your travels. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Stay tuned for my next video soon.